I mean, you're such courageous souls, to come on and listen to this. Um, so what I'm going to go through, I'm going to share with you my story, how I started into the study and the experience of oxalates. This is pretty important. I want to help raise your awareness of what are oxalates. I want to describe the effects on the body with oxalates. I want to share with you foods that are low, moderate, and high in oxalates, and what are some of the solutions that you can address some of these issues just in case, you are experiencing some of these yourself. So I want to thank Tommy and Monty for this opportunity, everybody, the team at Collier Collective, all of you who are joining today. This is just like really cool. So I already see some real oxalate faces like Catherine. She's like, she already knows some of this stuff. I could tell, like when you start diving into some of this, it literally changes your awareness and it changes your life on so many levels. So I want to first share with you um, a little bit of my experience with why and how I started into working with and selecting different foods low in oxalates. So, okay, let's take it way back as a child. Growing up, we had rhubarb. Did any of you eat rhubarb? We'd cut the rhubarb, dip it in sugar, and loved it as a child. Also, as a child, I had rheumatoid arthritis, and I wasn't connecting some of the foods I was eating, even with oxalates. Had no clue. Okay, going on in life, a little over 40 years ago, I found how to change my nutrition. So I went from being a junk food junkie and a lot of processed foods, and I started cleaning up, how I was eating. I started learning how you can change this, change that. So for years, I have blended these really amazing health food drinks, okay? Lots and lots of almond milk, lots of spinach. I would put almond butter in, I would put peanut butter in, carrot, celery, just loaded it up, and blended it. And for years, I taught, and I put beet powder in it, or I'd put fresh beets in it, or I'd put turmeric in it. And I taught this, and I taught you how to make it, and I taught you how to drink it, and all the benefits to the body. Well, here, okay, on the side, I had issues with my lymphatics, especially around the breast area. There were tumors, there were cysts. I worked so hard for years and years of trying to eliminate and improve and help heal these issues. And so in this process, someone told me, well, why don't you do 6 cups of cucumber juice a day? Okay, that's been known to shrink tumors. And, and then I would do more, oh, I may as well do some more juicing, and then I started doing some more juicing and working with powder herbs too. Didn't know that were that high in oxalates. So then here, this is fascinating, and I want to make it clear, I'm not making any medical claims. I'm not telling any of you what to do, what to eat, what to change. I'm sharing with you my experience and stuff that I have studied since. Okay, so now people were coming into my office, and this was a matter of 6 months, and someone said they don't have a fatty liver anymore. I'm like, how is that? You're eating these low oxalates, you're eating primarily carnivore, and your fatty liver is cleared up. That does not go along with the years and years, I have learned about what creates fatty liver. Another person came in with, who I knew psoriasis very badly for years and years, all over the body. And it was 6 to 8 months, completely cleared up. Okay, I'm like, how does this happen? Same thing, low oxalates. They're looking at foods that primarily meats, fish, that kind of thing. I'm like, how is this happening? And then another lady came in and she was sharing with me all the things that cleared up in her gut, health benefits, all the weight she lost. This is getting my attention. Okay, what's the common denominator? And today I'm gonna address the oxalates primarily. I have predominantly since almost a year now been carnivore, but I do low oxalate selectively. So anyways, I said, all right, here's a way I could start working with some of the tumors in the lymphatic system, some of the issues. I was starting to have joint pain. The right hip was really starting to bother me when I'd walk very far. I was just having all these other kind of different signs and symptoms. And then I decided I'm going to go no processed foods. I went no carbs. I went no oxalates. Little did I know my body was already loaded with oxalates. I mean, on such a toxic level. So you're going to hear me refer to oxalates as poisoning. You're going to hear me refer to oxalates that they are so unhealthy for our body. And my system could not get rid of the oxalates. The lymphatic systems. Oxalates are these crystals, and there's several types of oxalates. There's even a condition called oxalate gout, and we're going to talk about that too. Okay, because so many things that I studied for years and years and have done, I'm changing. Okay, I have been changing. I'm continuing to change. So with the oxalates that are in plants, predominantly plants, and the oxalates that are in plants are by divine design. Okay, they keep other animals and insects from eating those plants. And not every plant is meant for us to eat safely, or we do it in very small dosages, is what I'm finding out. So when I went to I really went no oxalates, and the oxalates that even could set into your bones, the bone marrow, every organ, every cell of your body is astounding. And I got to experience and learn there is such a thing as oxalate poisoning. There is a thing as oxalate cancer. There is so much to this that I have no doubt. For me, my path is low oxalates and mostly no oxalates is where I'm at. Now, let me tell you what has happened outside of hitting such a high level of toxicity with the oxalates. The bunions in my feet, the one is completely gone now. Gone. Okay? Think about this. What does the oxalates do to your bones? The other one is more than halfway gone. Fascinating. I want you to really raise the consciousness of observing your body. Everyone on the call right now, just observe. Do you have a joint that's kind of, catches here and there? Does something really, what about ringing in the ears? What about, do you have insomnia? Okay, I'm going to go through several things, but as we're talking today of what I'm sharing, I'd like you to become aware of how your body feels right now, because I'm going to really invite you to a little bit of a personal challenge, as if you haven't tried this before, you might consider this. The other things that improved, like for example, if you wake up with, crystals around your eyes, they're little calcium crystals in the morning, you got to clear out your eyes and here. Again, this all comes from oxalates. If you ever have had kidney stones, or you have assisted in helping anybody with kidney stones, then you want to know about oxalates. There's a whole variety of type of stones that do affect the kidneys, but 80% of the kidney stones come from oxalate. And that's where we're going to also talk a little bit about, it's called an oxalate gout, a type of gout. And that's why when people get tested for uric acid and the doctors say, but your uric acid isn't high. What the heck? They're mystified at this. Well, we got some answers to this today. Okay. Another thing that I would say very, very recently that happened to me, actually 2 weeks ago, end up in the emergency room. I didn't know what was happening. It happened like in minutes. My saliva gland, I didn't know it was the saliva gland, it enlarged, got so big and painful in my throat I could hardly swallow. It was pretty severe, and this part of my head just swelled up, So we went to the emergency room, and they ruled out stroke, they ruled out everything, they couldn't find anything. My blood test results were incredible. They were like, this doesn't make sense, it's not infected, not inflamed, but we did find there's a crystal in the gland. I'm like, oh, that's what this is. It's an oxalate. It's an oxalate that was coming out, I truly believe this, out of my mouth from the dental work into the gland. And then went home. I'm like, you know what? Castor oil packs, heating pad, every night. I did it in the morning. It just totally went down. And as this is going down, you want to stimulate. If any of you ever have had anything like this, you stimulate the digestive juices in your mouth by eating, sucking on, drinking something tart, very tart. And I did that with the lemon. I did that with apple cider vinegar. And then just, it just went away. I am fascinated by this. At the core, I truly believe with a lot of the issues that we have may be coming from oxalates. When we were in San Diego, maybe a month ago, I walked the beach like never before. Not one thing hurt, ached, and I had an issue in the right hip, in the groin area, the pelvic area. Nothing. How is that? I'm questioning myself. But I'm not eating spinach. I'm not eating a lot of greens. I'm hardly eating any vegetables at all, and maybe a few bites of fruit, not much at all. How is this happening? Okay, and some of you listening to this call, you're probably saying, but Judy, won't I get malnourished? Won't I get sick? I won't get all the vitamins and the minerals I need. Interesting. What if your dry lips are coming from oxalates? And you know what oxalates do? They bond on to the minerals and the calcium in your body. So you won't be getting it. It's hooking on to all of that and you won't be getting it. And as soon as people start drinking minerals again, their chapped lips clear up in a matter of hours. This is fascinating. Is this not fascinating to you? Think about your body talks. Your body is letting you know what is in balance and what's not out of not in balance, and what is in balance. So, you know, I'm saying this because I'm forever my own experiment, okay? And when you have things start to clear up, like how come my brain doesn't feel as foggy anymore? How, you know, and we start looking, especially as bone changes. I want to, joint pain is so connected to oxalates, people. It is so connected. It's a difference of night and day. A arthritic condition over a year ago that started on my index finger, completely gone. You know how people have arthritic hands, you know, knots, you know, on their joints? It's usually because of the high oxalates that have accumulated in the body. And the oxalates don't come overnight. They're accumulative. That's why you could say, oh, isn't that all of a sudden I have gout? How is that? It's accumulative. And then when you stop and you start going low oxalates, the body's going to release the additional oxalates that's in the body. I think that is just so incredibly divine, okay, how we have been created. And what, you know, this thing of what throws us off balance, what, you know, what throws us into balance. But here's the thing, that it was very hard for me to get used to the fact everything I understood about this is still in question. And again, I go by the results of what I'm getting, what I'm feeling, how am I healing. I was going to read something out of the book, but I'm going to wait a minute. But I'm going to tell you, there have been a number of studies done with animals and oxalates. Every study they've done with animals and oxalates, the animals have died. You cannot give horses high oxalate food. You cannot give other animals high oxalate foods. Animals that had a little better digestion were like lamb, goats, you know, but the horses had a very hard time with that. And I think that's worthwhile knowing what are the oxalate levels in some of the foods that we have and eat. And you'll see some charts here pretty soon. But before I show you the charts on what's low, moderate, high oxalates that you might consider, I want to read you some well-studied scientific information of conditions that are associated with high oxalates in the body. And some of these you might relate to, you might have yourself, or you might say, well, this, you know, might relate to you, might not relate to you. But I'm going to go through some of these now. Hypothyroidism. A lot of times the thyroid will start to balance out once you get the oxalates down. Joint stiffness. Stiffness, like a stiff neck, stiff shoulders, lower back. A lot of times your body will become more flexible once you start to get to the level of low oxalates. Itchy eyes and dry eyes and eyes that twitch, like sometimes there's a nervous twitch. Many times it could clear up with low oxalates. Floaters. Urinary tract infections. Cloudiness in the urine. If it's not coming out clear and there's cloudiness in the urine, you've got oxalates in the kidney area, in the bladder area. Irritable bladder. Big one, kidney stones. 80% of the kidney stones, this is what they're coming from. Yeast, cold hands and feet. Skin issues, itchy skin. That's a big one. Any chronic skin condition, okay? You want to look at the oxalates. And again, here's the extreme case. The guy who came in, his psoriasis completely cleared up. Insomnia. There is more and more and more insomnia now. Okay, and it's people innocently, truly want to keep their health and they want to improve their health. So they're going more and more, not realizing for high oxalate foods. And that's what you're going to get a little educated on here today. Here is a big one, brain gut. Underneath many brain gut conditions, this includes Parkinson's, autism, and epilepsy. Okay? This includes all three of those because they're neurological issues that get affected by oxalates. This is so important. Mood irritability, when you feel irritable, it's a different thing than you could feel depressed, but when you get really irritated. Poor coordination, leg cramps. It's a painful leg cramp, let me tell you. And we talked about back pain. Now, toes, if you know anybody who has toes that curl up, okay, there are toes that curl down, and then there are some toes that curl up, and there's problems with the ankles, the joints, and the gout as well. That, let's see, I want to say it affects vision and hearing. A lot of times the hearing will greatly improve. I know when I went low oxalates, that's one of the things that I did notice is the hearing improved. I want to also mention tooth sensitivity and the tartar buildup on the teeth. That absolutely, that's probably one of the easiest things that clears up. So I had a tooth issue for years and the gum just never healed properly and I had the bleeding gums, and you know what? It's gone. It's just totally gone. And again, this is something I didn't notice. So if you're considering this yourself, I want you to look at, I really want you to look at your own health. Okay, let's just take some notes on some things that you might say yourself. You know, this might be worth a consideration. I understand this could be hard to wrap your brain around, especially if you have as many books on how to eat a certain way as I do. And now I only use a small fraction of those. It's crazy. Okay. But my body's talking. My body is telling me, the clarity in my brain is letting me know how well I recovered through this cancer, is just sharing with me, you know, my body of saying, okay, let's make these changes. Let's do this. That's what I'm doing and sharing with you. So let's go to, I probably covered the slide 1 and 2. So I want to show you foods that have different levels of oxalates. We'll go to the next one. What are oxalates? This is just a little bit. They're in plant-based foods. And let's go ahead to the next one. We talked about some health concerns. It definitely affects bacteria that's in the body. There is always a higher level of inflammation in the body. And symptoms such as fatigue and pain, the autoimmune system, you know, everything is affected, and especially urinary kidney area. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oxalates and kidney stones. Okay, and Tommy will be, I'm sure, willing to share any of these slides with you. So this is just everywhere with the kidney stones. You know, so many people have them. But doesn't it make sense to you? Why? Why do so many people have kidney stones? Oh my gosh. And this one client who came in, I forget how many times they have had surgery for the kidney stones. It was unbelievable. But I would want to know what the heck is behind this. This is not normal and this is not natural. But I don't believe our food supply is the best. at all, that we could absolutely get things more purified and simplified. But this is why I'm educating you today on this. Let's go to the next one. What is a low oxalate diet? Okay, so this is what you want to know about low oxalates. Per serving, and they have per day. I'm going to give you a little different range from different people who have studied from. So you may go up to even 100 per day, but a serving could be 5 to 9 oxalates. And here's something you're going to want to do your research on, and I'm going to share a book that will be very helpful for you to get more information on this. This is something that if you study it and do it, you're going to get really good results with it. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, I want you to look at this carefully. High oxalate foods. Okay, if you're dealing with types of joint pain, stiffness, gout, your body could be releasing the oxalates, but if you're continuing to feed them, look at some of these foods on this chart. I personally don't go near it in that way. I want to keep having the best quality of life I can have, and that means, making these changes a little bit every day. So you could see this chocolate milk. I mean, chocolate, dark chocolate. Didn't you think dark chocolate's better for you than regular chocolate? Oh my gosh, it's loaded with oxalates. And I just thought I was doing a much better thing, by having that. I'm not as good at doing things in moderation. Maybe some of you are, but it's like, well, if you give me a box of chocolate, we got to take care of that thing, But that's not where I want to be today, and that's not where I am today. And here's, it's not easy for people to make the changes that could really improve the condition of their cells, the condition of their organs, their brain, and their gut. They don't want to be patient. They want a quick fix now. Just tell me now what to take and do, and I'll be fine. That's not how this works holistically, okay? We becoming more conscious and educate ourselves. Well, what is in this? What are we putting in our body? What is this doing to our nerves? Why is this eating up the calcium and the minerals? I could not figure out why I was going through calcium, my body, leaching it, and minerals at the rate it was. Oxalates absorb that. It just thrives on it. And do you know when you blend in the blender all your high oxalate foods, it expands the oxalates. It accelerates them. Oh, wow, that is even better, right? It is just amazing how this affects us. Off and on, we go to a place, it's called Jason's Deli, and really, really amazing salad bar. Just really good stuff that's in the salad bar. Every time after eating at the salad bar, my energy tanked. I just would not have energy. I loaded it with spinach. The stuff I loaded it with is some of the stuff that's right here on this sheet. I'm like, what? I just ate a really good salad. Did you ever feel like that when you ate something so healthy you thought or you were taught? And did your mind trick you into saying, but I should feel so good and I feel so much better, but I don't? How come after eating a sweet potato, every time I would feel wiped out? Do you know how high sweet potatoes are in oxalates? I did not know that until I started studying this stuff. There are other choices. Your red skin potatoes, you could boil those. They're definitely lower in oxalates. But high oxalates, I want to tell you, 100 milligrams per serving or more is high oxalate. 250 milligrams per day plus is just definitely high oxalates. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, here's medium. Okay, so maybe you're going to start out and say, I am going to start cutting back on my oxalates. Maybe you're going to start with medium, what's considered moderate oxalates. I really recommend whoever does go through this that you will start slower. Okay? I get to be the example of some things, how not to do it. But going slower, ease into it with lower oxalates could start making a difference. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, here's the one I would love for you to kind of zone in on with some of these foods. And then I'm going to share with you, there is, in the testing world of oxalates, discrepancies. Don't we find that everywhere? There's just some discrepancies. The green tea, black tea is definitely very high in oxalates. Green tea has some really good health benefits, but you want to do that in smaller dosages, which on this one, I'm going to run through with you a couple things about the low oxalates, so you know what teas to drink, okay? I'm going to tell you some of the teas that are just really high in oxalates. Your black currant tea, your lemon peel. Wine would be more moderate. Someone's asking Valerie about that. Yeah, it would be more moderate. When you start doing with some of the other drinks, we're into high oxalates. Okay, let's go to the teas that are low oxalates. Your hibiscus tea, okay, peppermint tea, lavender mint tea, that is just such a yummy one. Your Earl Grey robust tea, the lemon cream tea. There's several of those teas actually, and your chamomile tea is a very good tea to have as well. And back to low oxalate. Some of the ones, I want to see if they're on here. Yeah, the low oxalates. Look at the condiments. Okay, a lot of people use a lot of condiments, but be mindful of this, and it's Tommy will share the charts with you. It's so subtle, and it's amazing what will start to come in that we eat that really does accumulate quite a bit. Now, with the herbs, okay, because this is a question that comes up a lot to me, and people will say, well, there's herbs like turmeric, is very high in oxalates. You might use it at a low, very small dosage, but you might use white willow bark. I mean, you start to learn how to work with it, and the herbs here can start to be used medicinally. Okay, think of herbs as medicinal. You don't need them all the time, every time. And then I want to address gout, okay? I definitely want to go back to that. It's becoming like such a mystery to people of why are they having these situations flare up. It's not always coming from uric acid. It's not always coming from alcohol. It may be just from the oxalates. It just may be, from some of the foods that you're eating. I'd like to read something right now. And and there's a book that if you want to know more about oxalates, the name of the book is Toxic Superfoods. And when I first saw this book, Toxic Superfoods, by Sally K. Norton, Norton, I had such a hard time mentally adjusting to this because I was a person, I loved almonds. I saw frozen bags of almonds. I have so many cases of almond milk that I have accumulated. It like all this stuff. I'm like, I had to keep seeing proof in the pudding. Proof in the pudding was what my body kept changing and what my body kept doing. So I want to read to you just shortly a little wee bit about gout, okay? Because this is something, for some reason, it is definitely surfacing in more and more people. Arthritis, gout, and joint damage are inflammatory responses to oxalate crystals. Patients on dialysis, which can increase oxalate retention in the body, develop oxalate calcification, cartilage, and joint pain. Isn't that interesting? Oxalate arthritis typically occurs in previously damaged joints, but it can also just start to accumulate anyways from oxalate crystals large enough to create inflammation. Now, interestingly, brief gout attacks may commence in the wake of the adoption of very low oxalate diet, probably a sign of tissue clearing by the immune system, where the body's trying to get rid of the oxalates. And let's say a person, they go and they have high oxalates and they're going to have peanut butter jelly sandwich, and they like that every day. There are people who just, I used to be like that. I used to love a lot of peanut butter. I used to love a lot of almond butter, And again, if you look at the high oxalate charts, are you feeding it or are you starting to starve it and clear it by going low oxalates? So immune reactions to the oxalate crystals in the blood vessels are known to cause the pain of gout and lead to more joint damage and fibrous conditions. Fibromyalgia. Interesting. In the 1930s, when someone's arthritis pain flares after eating high oxalate food, it was called oxalate gout. I just hope you're as fascinated with this as I am, because it's an option. It's a choice. When we start to educate ourselves more and learn more about this, that we don't have to be as stuck in the pain. But pain has a path. The pain has purpose. If I didn't go through and have some of the pains that I have, I wouldn't be studying and learning how to reverse some of this. What are other options that I have? And we're learning in this world today. And that's good, Tommy. Thank you so much. We could take those down. In this world today, that a lot of information we're being taught might not be as valid as we think. We still are responsible. Yeah, Catherine, we're still responsible to do our own research, to do our own study, and look at the quality of life long term that we have. Means, okay, what are we putting in our body today? It doesn't mean, God didn't design the plants properly. It doesn't mean that. Maybe there was another purpose for some of the high oxalate plants. But when I made my drink that I thought was so healthy from fresh spinach, I put so many, it takes a lot of spinach leaves, to put, for me, what I put in a drink. Or let's say I knew it was healthy to eat spinach. I'd cook a big pan of spinach, and when you put the whole thing in and it'll cook down and you eat that, did I eat it because it was truly that good and I felt that great? I'm questioning all this right now. And that's what you get in the classes that I teach. I'm going to share information to you that you might say and scratch your head, ay, yay, this is so different than what I thought. This is so different what I grew up. Oh, you can, your cholesterol and high blood pressure could be affected by low oxalates. It could really improve. Yeah. It's and again, having the blood test results in the very beginning of this and having the blood test results now, it's incredible. So you want to find the gauges to say, okay, this is a good marker of how I'm improving, how I feel. You'll know by how that body moves, how that body digests. Are you still having the bloating and the gas? How are you affected right after you eat a big green salad? Okay, and granted, there are some greens that are low oxalate, so I'm not telling you to go completely off of vegetables and fruits. I'm not sharing that. I'm promoting the low oxalates. Okay, that's what I'm really talking about. So this could be a whole lot to ingest. So you know how when we have challenges in life, it can bring you to a whole nother creation of some things. And that's what this has done. I have really worked hard and I've been motivated to come up with a new formula that's low oxalate and that it's a binder to help you gently digest and move the toxins out. But it's low oxalates. It's incredibly affordable. We will be launching it in 3 weeks to help people eliminate the oxalates. The other thing, if you want to know how do I eliminate the oxalates, how do I keep cleansing them out of your system, you want to stay hydrated, okay? That will help flush them out. Anytime you stimulate the saliva juices, the tart, apple cider vinegar helps too. You want to keep moving it out of your system. What I'd like to do in the time remaining is see if any of you want to talk about any of your experiences you have had with high oxalates, or what has changed once you went low oxalates, any experiences or questions you might have with that right now. This is the first time I have taught in a group about oxalates. I study it, I do it, so this is a pretty big subject, let alone there are people who just write books on it. Many times, Sally Norton, who wrote the book, Toxic Superfoods, not only her, but a whole number of other doctors, oh, thank you, Tommy, have tried to get grants. They have gone to the AMA, they've gone to the FDA to get funding to study this and to make this an actual, documentation for people to know that this could even be put on your supplemental facts. Not once would they be willing to do it. Not once. They said you have to get your own funding. They will not support this. So doesn't surprise me, at all. But we could do our own. We could do our own study and research. Okay, I want to just open it up. If anybody has any comments, any questions that you'd like to share.
Thank you, Judy. Yeah, any questions, feel free to raise your hand or type it in the chat. I have one I'll start with. Where's garlic on the list?
Okay, so garlic would be more medium. I use it medicinally. I don't use, that's the way to use it. So it's not high. I believe garlic and onion is still a good choice to use on your food, small amounts.
Okay, cool. Catherine. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Catherine.
Hello. Hello. Thank you so much, Judy. I'm grateful for all this. And so it's so much information. I'm looking forward to the replay. Um, I don't really have a question, but you're confirming with me now that it is very important for us to examine what we're eating and to be mindful of how our body responds to what we're eating. And I got to tell you, you had a seminar, I guess, about a year ago, and you talked about, processed foods. And so I've eliminated nearly 90% of them. Um, and boy, what a big positive difference that's made. So thank you for all your information. I
You're
appreciate it.
you're
And
welcome. What would you say for like specifically some of the differences?
well, I was eating lots of microwave meals because I was doing the 9 to 5, and it was a lunch and stuff, and eliminating all that stuff, and a lot more flexibility, a
Hmm.
lot more energy,
Hmm.
um, lighter weight.
Hmm.
You know, I was and less brain fog.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it was really really helpful, and it took a little while, but and
Hmm.
eventually I thought, wow, this is really really adding up. So it
That is great. Do you feel like even stronger with who you are in your own being?
you know I'm glad you asked that. I didn't know those could be linked together, but yeah, I feel amazing. Like like I'm a brighter, more vibrant person as opposed to just a sort of a, well, bag
Yeah,
of human bones.
yeah. Isn't that interesting, Catherine? Because
Yeah.
we become more present in our own life as a leader in our own life. We're not shrunk back like, okay, whatever, I'll do it. No, we have a voice of, we still have our innocence, okay? But we still have, we're connected to the strength of how we've been created. That's what keeps happening. And I could tell that by seeing you on these calls. It's like the aura is so strong, and that's what we can evolve to. That's more natural for us.
Oh, thank you. Wow. It's starting to connect. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And it takes time. So please be patient. It takes time. And it's a process. Nothing came overnight. Okay, this has been generations, or this has been like my whole life. And then for when we have this, like, whether you call it you've been red pill or you wake up and like, wow, what? Oh my gosh, I cannot go back now to where I was. I can't teach some things the way I used to. We just took vitamin C out of our inventory. We're making some changes because I want low oxalates, and that's a big process. I used to have, oh my gosh, intravenous drip. I have had so much vitamin C. I've had so much, you know. I did not know what it was doing to my calcium and my minerals. Now, here's what I find interesting. Where did all this information originally come from? How did they make these conclusions that this is that good for you? I'm still studying this. I'm still fascinated to know how did it get concluded to be that type of facts in so many books, and then, you know, as we know, everything's changing. Gosh. Oh, thank you, Catherine.
Thanks, Catherine. Maggie's got her hand up. Hi, Maggie.
Hi,
Hi
Maggie.
there. Hi, hello. Um, Judy, I'm interested in turmeric, garlic, and onions. My son is a he's gone in a direction where he's been a vegan for quite a while, and he's quite a strong, and a healthy male, and he's very much into nutrition and keeping his body well tuned and fit. But things like turmeric, like in terms of that being, I mean, he puts turmeric on everything. So because in his mind, that's a very healthy spice that he uses, and he's
I
very
get it.
open to all sorts of spices. So what I
I
mean,
get it.
what is
I get it. I did the same thing. It's only a matter of time. It accumulates in the body, high oxalates. I used to not ever eat meat. I used to be vegan. And everyone's got to follow their own path, right?
yeah.
It's only a matter of time. It's been proven one of the herbs highest in oxalates is turmeric. You know, I would put so much of that into my shakes. And
Mhm,
that's all I can go by is educate, look at, what's high levels of oxalates. What does that do to the body? It will continue to accumulate as a person gets older. I really, at this age, almost 70, there is not one joint inflamed, not one. I'm not bragging at all. Please know that. I used to have it. I used to feel it, in walking. I used to feel it, oh, a little bit hard moving in the morning. I don't have that. It might be hard moving in the morning at times because you can feel the energy of the world, or I got to get into my breathing, meditation, of other things that I could feel. But what you're bringing up is I don't have the right to. There are so many colleagues of mine who are not in favor of what I'm doing. Okay? They're just not. But they'll
mhm,
go and
mhm.
have the kidney stones removed. They will keep going and doing this, and they'll keep going and doing that. But as we get older, let me tell you, the crystals set in on the joints. It will suck the calcium and the minerals out of the body.
How about bunion? Like I have a huge bunion on my left foot. And it's funny because it's hereditary almost, or I used to think it because I have an aunt who also had that. Is that also would you conclude that that's also, crystallized from all these things? And
It's connected.
yeah.
It's totally connected. How is it that mine are clear? The one totally cleared up. I'm wearing a pair of shoes I bought 5 years ago. I just love. I could never get my foot into them, and it
Yeah.
would hurt. If
Yeah.
you have bunions and you have a tight shoe, it hurts. You can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all changing. So
Okay.
look, the body has accumulated those crystals, okay, somehow. It just doesn't happen for no reason. How
Hmm.
is it at this point my pH is almost normal? Prior to all this, I couldn't get my pH up. That I find fascinating. I taught alkaline classes, how to get alkaline. I'm teaching a
Yeah.
little different now, but you're
Yeah.
you're really you're asking good questions, because now these are the things you scratch your head. How do you explain that? You
Hmm.
know?
Hmm. Would you say different bodies will process differently? Like one person could have a bit more of let's say oxalates and not be affected, and someone who would just have a little, it would, kind of explode, that kind of
It
thing.
will depend on the level of the microbiome in their digestive tract. It will depend on what their health condition is. It will depend
Okay.
on the toxicity and levels of toxic fat that might be in their body. There'll be a lot of influences. For people who are more sedentary and not hydrated, it will have more of an effect. I mean, there are
Okay.
influences in nature for us, just principles to follow.
Hmm. 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 Can I ask you, one of the things I had noticed is we have a villa in Jamaica that we used to spend 3 or 4 months in Jamaica, and then come back to Canada and spend, 6 months here. But what I noticed is the fruits and vegetables, and especially they were coming out of the property that we had, were so much more alive versus what I was eating here, and my body was reacting so much more like healthy. I wouldn't here I eat and then you want to sleep, and it's like, what is that, right? And
Right.
yet there, the foods energized you. They didn't make you want to go back to sleep. So that's something I wondered
Oh,
about.
very good, Maggie. You're bringing up something. When they're, let's talk about avocado. When an
Hmm.
avocado is picked ripe, you buy it at the
Yeah.
store, it's ripe. It's much 50% lower in oxalates. When you get an avocado or banana or fruits that are still green,
Mhm.
not ripe, they're much
Mhm.
higher in oxalates. And when you have the freshness of the foods that you're describing, from other countries, I really think we're some of the worst countries of toxic food and chemicals and
Yeah. Yeah.
everything that goes into things, you felt the difference. That's a
Yeah.
truth. Your body
Yeah.
told you that's a big difference. And
Mhm.
what you're bringing to mind with me is let's talk about black pepper, okay?
Mhm.
So we've heard black pepper is really, really good for the immune system.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Black pepper corns are so high in oxalates. From
Mhm.
the pepper plant, fruit plant, when black pepper is because it's picked, it's harvest before it's ripe. The white
Mhm.
pepper is very low in oxalates. It's stronger, but it's very low. So you may want to have the white pepper. The other
Mhm.
day, I met with a friend at lunch and we had some turkey, and on the outside of it had a lot of black pepper all around it. And I can tell the difference after I had that. I thought, oh, what the heck, And she's picking hers off because she's watching her oxalates. I could feel the difference. I felt the difference in my left hand, actually. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
you
Okay.
know,
Okay.
but we pay attention, we get tuned into these things.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
Thank
have
you,
to say,
Maggie.
yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. Anyone else? I don't see any other hands. I don't see anything in the chat. Well, thank you, Judy. I think we might need a class of like, okay, well, what the hell should I eat then?
Yeah, the low oxalate list is beautiful. And
Okay.
if you need to integrate into it, do the moderate. Okay, that's fine. But just start leaning that way because maybe you have things in your home that's more high oxalate. Be reasonable. Okay, start making the transition. But if you can make a copy of that list and start, picking and choosing from that, say for 30 days. 30 days, maybe 2 weeks, I am going to go low oxalate. Your body will detoxify, will let go if there's a high amount of oxalate in them. And please don't hesitate to contact my company, contact me. I know exactly how to walk you through this. And a lot of people eat cashews, a lot of people eat almonds. They're very, very high in oxalates. Okay. Um, but you want them on hand in case you have what's called an oxalate dump. And I would, recommend that's how you can kind of moderate it so it won't be as severe. But every time you get through a little bit of cleansing with the oxalates, you'll just feel so much stronger and better.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Judy. Fascinating as always.
Thank you. Thank all of you. Okay. If you search oxalates, believe me, this is getting to be well known more and more and across the world right now. People are waking up to what these oxalates have been doing. And the research has gone on for over 200 years. They have hidden the research, but it's coming out. So, educate yourself, and make the changes slowly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Judy. Thanks, friends, for being here. We'll see you back next time.
Yep. Thank
All
you.
right.
Okay.
Bye for now. Thank
Bye.
you.